clearly there was something going on that, you know, the caucus itself maybe was not aware of, or they were aware of, but sought to deny, or as it were, you know, in Jose Usu's words, resist any change whatsoever. Kpebu, I mean, you following from what happened in the case of the NDC and how Haruna, also with the very illustrious, you know, parliamentary career and impact was changed. And then we are seeing almost a similar situation playing out in Oseche Mensah Bonsu's case. You would agree that he could have at least been given an honorable exit than what we are seeing now?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because, you know, he's been dealt with in such a very embarrassing manner. Yeah, it's extremely embarrassing that as a majority leader, you hear about your sacking in the news. Yeah, you're going to be sacked. Yeah, it's no joke. You look at it. For a man who has helped this party that much, look at even the e-levy, this very obnoxious e-levy, etc. But I'm looking at some of the big fights that he led. Look at this e-levy, how you struggled, and eventually, you know, you guys got it through, even with faking somebody for Adwoa Safo. You remember that story?
What's been the, in fact, that one we cannot say for sure, because Parliament itself, respectfully,
no,
Council, I don't want us to, yes,
who is going to take
hold on, wait. That's what I'm saying.
It's not Adwoa Safo.
Yes, Council, the Parliament itself said they were going to investigate it. They haven't come out with the conclusions as yet. So I don't want us to go on that path.
Look, the last time I sent a petition to the Speaker against this Jospon contract, the one Ekufado called corruption.
I don't want us to go back and forth.
The report is not yet out.
Let's not
the
go back.
Manasseh report against
we may have seen,
the
but
better Ghana thing.
Parliament itself.
If you do that, you're going to allow Parliament to keep also festering corruption.
Then we have to ask them questions
as to why they have not
come out with their own conclusions of the investigation.
The Manasseh thing against Jospon's corruption thing, it's not yet out over a year.
So we need to ask them.
Okay, let's move. So, Oseche Mensah Bonsu hears about his sacking in the news, and you think that is a joke? Is that how you pay somebody for all the work he's done? At least, what's the rush? What prevented the president from calling him, or the party leaders from calling him ahead? Look, yesterday in the morning, I monitored another station where Joe Wise gave an interview, and I have it on my phone. If you like, when we go on the break, I'll send it to you, and then you play it. He says, listen, at the time, this, what do you call it? This agenda item you are talking about, at the time the agenda item, everything came out, nobody had spoken to Osewusu. That's what Joe Wise said yesterday.
Nobody had spoken to him.
Yes, on NIT FM. I have it here. Listen, let me forward it to you.
Don't worry. I believe your preference.
I monitored it. Look, Joe Wise was upset that as of this agenda you've talked about, you are soon going to put out there. He says that as of the time the meeting, they put that on the agenda, went to the meeting, and then finally, you know, because of the backlash, then they didn't discuss. He says, as of that time, nobody had spoken to, or say, Che Mensah Bonsu. Since the name is long, we just use Mensah Bonsu. Nobody had spoken to him. So I was like, what? So you know what I did? Excuse me. Yesterday night, I decided to go get the, what do you call it? The clip to listen again.
Right.
I spoke to the host just to be double sure. I forwarded it to you. Let's play it. You hear what Joe Wise said. He said nobody. I have water here.
Oh, you do? Sorry.
Yes. He said nobody spoke to Mensah Bonsu. I'm like, what? That is it here. That's Joe Wise yesterday in the morning on NIT FM. I was like, what has Mensah Bonsu done? Has he taken the president's girlfriend or something? What's the problem? That you disgrace, embarrass a man so much like this. I mean, what has he done to deserve such embarrassment? I mean, you look at the Constitution, you've not put him before any disciplinary committee, at least publicly, we haven't seen anything that he's done so bad to deserve such a treatment. So I look at it, and then Mr. Okansi, what it raises is that we have to look at the system of governance again. You know, every time there's no week that a problem of governance arises and it doesn't touch the constitution. There's no week. Every time. So it tells you we are suffocating under this constitution. Yes, Honorable. And yes, Honorable Dafemi. So let's make the point quickly. Yes, you see how Honorable Dafemi is always in court over these matters, right? So what I see is that, listen, is the power the parties wield over the MPs is unwieldy. That power is unwieldy. Yes, let's get a better system. Okay. Let's move away from the whip system.
Right.
I was on a different platform, Professor Kpebu, where he was crying about that same thing. Because when the sacking came, I said, listen, can we blame the parties that much? It's the law we have. The law is giving them too much power. Yeah, from the Constitution to Act 300. You know Act 300, the Parliament Act. You know, under Act 300, the Parliament Act, for any small misbehavior, for them, the law just says that, listen, a party, the General Secretary can write to Parliament that, well, they've taken disciplinary sanctions against this member of Parliament. So they are withdrawing him.
Anti-party behavior.
Yes. Can you imagine? So you see why the MPs are that docile?
So the party, based on the details of this law, can ask for the expulsion of a member of Parliament if the MP goes against certain party dictates.
Thank you. So such a thing, where are we going with such a law in a democracy?
Honorable,
no, you're saying?
Sorry. Honorable Dr. Rashid, come in if you want to make a small point. Yes. You were saying I'm saying come in.
Yes, I was saying that some of that, we saw trappings of some of that in the case of the
second deputy speaker.
Yeah, in the 7th Parliament, when the party wrote to the speaker, trying to, remove the current second deputy speaker.
Was resisted.
Yes.
You see? Yeah, so Okwe fought it. Okwe fought it, then eventually
independent candidate.
It was close to elections.
Elections, so the timing was bad. So you see, that is the root cause of it. The parties wield unwieldy power over the MPs. So you make them docile. Because otherwise, what would that happen? So the good thing we should learn from this is that, let's look at the system again. This Act 300 giving parties too much power, the Constitution itself giving parties too much power, right? And then we can have a better system. Then we remove the whip system, because Kpebu was making the point that the whip system, as we copied from the UK, right, it's not fit for our purpose, because in Ghana here we have what? A fixed term, generally, unless, of course, under Article 60, Clause 13, when the president and the vice resign, then the speaker is in charge for only 3 months, then we have elections.
Yes.
That exception apart, the term is 4 years. So generally, the term of any government is 4 years, right? So in that case, we don't have a basis for keeping for taking the whip system on, because in the UK they don't have it, right? Yes. So if you don't mind, let me look at this. A comment like this. It says, look, the whip system evolved in the Westminster system because in that parliamentary system, losing the majority vote on a big issue in Parliament can bring the government down and trigger new elections. Whips thus emerged to keep the party's MPs together, particularly if a confidence vote was on the floor. Because the president and his government in a presidential system have a fixed term and are not vulnerable to removal through parliamentary vote of no confidence, the need for a whip system diminishes substantially in the presidential system or any system where the government cannot be brought down through a vote in parliament. So that's Kpebu. So that's the thing. So it's good, the good reasons, right? That this sacking, obnoxious sacking, has brought this matter forward. So let's look at it. Let's add it to the constitutional reforms we want to do. Because if we don't, we'll continue to have a very docile parliament. You see, what they've done, this Act 300 we're talking about, removal and the articles of the Constitution. Then we also talk about appointing majority of the ministers from Parliament. All this add together to make Parliament very weak. Very weak. Actually, I've been mentioning this last, Honorable, do you know the name of the research? The Speaker himself cited it, the last research that showed that out of the three arms of government,
Parliament is the weakest.
is the weakest. Yeah, the speaker himself cited
Parliament
it.
is the
If
weakest
you-
of the three.
Yes.
Because of the
even
yes.
even
Dr. Rashid.
beyond that research, I think we know. I mean, every data that is out there. Sometimes even the presidency. I mean, is trusted by citizens more than.
Can you
Parliament.
imagine?
And,
Can you imagine the mother segment of corruption?
and on any day that there is a constitutional upheaval, it's only Parliament that suffers.
Yes.
That's more the reason why Parliament.
Whoever takes the executive power moves quickly into the executive. The
Judiciary will
judiciary
remain
is left
in one
intact
form or the other.
Yeah.
But Parliament is
Yes.
truncated.
Yes.
But you see,
So we have not
no,
built Parliament
Parliament
over
is
time.
So
If we
I
have
want
built
I
Parliament
wanted
over time.
Kpebu to land on this
Yes,
point
he
because
does.
in the end, you see, you're talking about the provisions of the current law and what it does to Parliament and its work. So what has to be done? Because I'm looking at the new standing orders now, and in fact, there's a conversation we're going to get into because in the mind of the Honorable Joe Osei-Osu, the new standing orders should have cured that situation. That's that as to at what point exactly the party gets to influence who becomes the leader of the caucus in Parliament, especially because of what happened in the case of the NDC. That's one of the cardinal areas, in fact, the cardinal reasons that prompted this whole new standing orders
Yes.
to be put in place.
Yes.
The speaker doesn't think otherwise.
Yes.
no, but yesterday, sorry.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yesterday, if you listen to the former majority leader once again, I mean, in his speech, I was listening very carefully because I wanted to just understand certain things. You know, he said the caucus unanimously agreed on who their new leaders should be, and then they communicated that to the party.
Right. So
They-
there was
They
that.
agreed and they communicated that to the party. So I was sitting there and I was telling myself, I mean, why didn't we do this 1 week ago to avoid all this? If really there's no underlying, something that maybe we don't know in the public domain.
Because
And I mean the other issue that I wanted to just talk about very quickly is about this constitutional review and all the kind of things that we need, because just like the standing orders were not fit for purpose, I think there are so many candidates, I mean, in the candidate articles in our constitution that need to be taken a serious look at.
Excellent.
And interestingly, I mean, in the last couple of years, I think is the majority leader, the outgone majority leader, who has been leading this effort through his Ministry for Parliamentary
to
Affairs.
amend the aspects of the Constitution.
Yes. Is that why maybe, I mean, all this is happening? I don't know. But I think he has taken a very serious stand and started putting together experts in this country to take a look at the Constitution and see what needs to be changed. In fact, the process has started.
I see. That's
So I don't know what the fate of that process is going to be now. Now that we are hearing that the ministry is going to be scrapped.
So
the ministry
I understand that he is still, at least based on the pronouncements of Nana Boachi, he is still the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs,
Oh, really?
even though not the majority leader.
Interesting.
Which also brings up another conversation altogether. But Lawyer Matube, will you round up for me, please?
Yes, good. So we're making the point about the docility of parliaments coming from the nature of our laws. Yeah, so you're asking a question about the speaker's interpretation. Yeah, so if you look at the new standing orders, right? So majority leader, it says, is somebody who is being designated as such by his caucus, right? His or her caucus, right? So then but you know, when we are interpreting laws, we don't interpret just, bits and pieces, but it's all the laws put together, right? So, to be honest, naturally, because I want a stronger parliament, I want to go with the interpretation that it has to be the members in parliament who have to elect their leader. Attaching Joe Wise, that's what Joe Wise, because for Joe Wise to come out against the party and everything, then it means that this is really cut deep, right? Yes. So I support it. But as I mentioned earlier, if you look at the control that the parties also have, as enunciated in Act 300, the Parliamentary Act, then you see that, well, maybe we need more thinking on it. Because straight away on the face of it, Majority Leader, I want us to read the, yes. It says Majority Leader means a member of Parliament.
This is Act 301.
No, this one I'm reading the new
The
standing
new standing
orders.
orders.
Yes, there
Oh,
are 300.
in fact, that was just going. We're going to get into that because I just made reference to it for purposes. But
Okay,
you can
good.
go ahead.
Then we'll come to the 300 if there's time to read from there too. Majority Leader means a member of Parliament designated by the Majority Caucus as their leader in the House. Majority Leader means a member of Parliament designated by the Majority Caucus as their leader in the House. On the face of it, this is straight. You don't need any sophistry. You say, but Mr. Speaker takes the position that, oh, no, it cannot be because it's the parties that have sponsored candidates. This shouldn't stand. But they passed it as Parliament. They passed it. So I really, Mr. Speaker himself, having lamented the way Parliament is the weakest link and etc., it's really difficult to reconcile that with this interpretation is given. Because in interpreting, Mr. Okansi, you ask every lawyer, they tell we have basic rules of interpretation. And one of the cardinal rules is that, look, when the words are clear, you just take them as they stand. So this that I've read, it says a majority leader is designated by members of the Majority Caucus.
At least that's what's on the screen for the benefit of our viewers. The listeners on 3FM, this is what it reads. Let's go back to the first slide. Let's go back. Order 6, interpretation. And you see, the speaker's interpretation or his opinion is predicated on Order 5. Okay, because he kept mentioning Order 5, so we'll get to Order 5 in a bit. But this is what Order 6 of the new standing orders says, and I read, Majority Caucus means the members of the party or parties that have the largest number of the seats in Parliament or in the House. Majority Leader means a member of Parliament designated by the Majority Caucus as their leader in the House. So this is clear. Designated by the Majority Caucus.
Yes, and there are 1,001 decisions. When you go to law school, they will tell you, look, when the words are clear, Master, just give them that effect. Honorable Dafiamepo is here, he will tell you. If the words are clear, then there is that further principle that, listen, don't substitute your own understanding for what you see just because you don't like it. No, there are ethics. So this phrase you find, majority leader, is the person who is selected by the Majority Caucus. How would you overturn it based on Order 5? No, then that definition shouldn't stand. Yes, so that's why I mentioned earlier that yes, we accept that there is what we call reading the text as a whole, right? And that's how I went to Act 300. Order 5 is talking about the power to interpret or supplement the orders. Right? So you're talking about the power to interpret. Yes, Mr. Speaker interprets. But where we can also read, this one you don't even need lawyers. This thing is very, very clear. But as I said, so the context would be perhaps the Act 300, which we have here, which mentions that the parties can remove MPs and the rest.
Right.
It's about time we challenge that. Because we shouldn't allow such retrogressive rulings. These are the kind of rulings that weaken our democracy.
Right.
When we have
It's an enactment.
yes, but right now they say, I took this matter to court, Kpebu number 3.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court said, listen, for them, those things in the Green Book, we call them Green Book, the work Justice Crab did.
Yes.
That's law until they are struck down because they were brought to Parliament and you guys approved them. So when you read Kpebu number 3, the Supreme Court berated Parliament for doing a poor job. You didn't read over the work. So Act 300 is in the Green Book. You accepted it. Okay. So unless maybe you want to go to the Supreme Court again to strike this down.
Thank you, Lawyer Martin Kpebu. Bring the Honorable Hussein Issa because it is, well, we've been talking about them, but it definitely has some reference point to what happened in the NDC as well. But Honorable Hussein Issa, a quick one. Dr. Rashid Oman, you want to Just a quickly.
just a very quick one. I just wanted to say, for our members of parliament, I think for me, my appeal is, if I look at our historical trajectory, I remember even the issue of the private members' bills. Year after year, speaker after speaker struggled until the Right Honorable Michael Quay said, we are going to take the powers that belong to us. Let somebody go and tell us that we don't have those powers. In this particular case, the standing orders are clear. And I think that Parliament should be united because we want a strong Parliament. I'm surprised that, there are kind of arguments trying to water down
the effect,
the
impact of Parliament.
No, the impact of Parliament and the powers of Parliament.
Okay.
So I think that's just my appeal to both caucuses.
Indeed.